Polypede Works here, coming to you once again with One Piece chapter 1140 entitled Scopper Gaban. So we have the 26th installment of the Yamato cover story, in which we have Ulti in Wano garb. So she's changed her clothes and she is being chained up to a dartboard, and who has been throwing many a katana at her. Some have hit her. One looks like it's hit her in the same spot that Big Mom hit her back in Onigashima, so that sucks. But apparently two, page one actually is here because she says, "I'll beat you to hell if you lay a finger on Paytam." So she's talking about page one. So those silhouettes were obviously Ulti in page one, which makes sense. So I bet Yamato and Tama are going to save her. She's going to join Yamato's band. And I did make a video about how I think who is going to be Yamato's Ashura Doji, but we'll have to see. Because I'm willing to bet that if all of his cronies are Smile users, I don't know about the two women, but I know like the Lion Guy and the rest of the Cat Freaks, if they're all Smile users, then that means Tama can actually brainwash them. So that's going to be interesting. But I always thought that was going to be the case, that she would just go around and do that to all the straggling beast pirates that were Smile users, because that just seems like the ultimate conclusion to that whole story bit. But I don't know. We'll see as the story continues. But anyway, in Elbaf, we have Scopper Gaban playing games with the key. Luffy goes after him, and then that is when Zoro remembers what Colin said about his father, and Zoro starts to contemplate the strength mentioned. Luffy goes in, and Scopper Gaban apparently is a Keyblade user from Kingdom Hearts, because he hockeys up the key and smashes the pedestal that it was on. That's crazy. Luffy gets mad, goes after it again, and then they have a conversation about Luffy's hat, where Scopper Gaban says the hat would fit him better than the helmet he's wearing. He says he got it from Shanks and that's his treasure, and he calls Shanks a cheapskate, which pisses off Luffy. And then we get a hilarious scene when Scopper Gaban shoves the key inside Luffy's mouth and it stretches his head. That's great. That's great. It's so nice that we're this late in the game. We still got good comedy. I love that. It makes Luffy's eyes bug out. That's amazing. This puts Luffy on the back foot, and that is when Scopper draws his iconic twin axes out of nowhere, and we get a named attack from him called Grim Throng. This alerts Zoro because he senses the danger in the attack. He yells out for Luffy to dodge, and then Zoro comes in and blocks a wind blast from Scopper Gaban. That's what it looked like. So I'm not surprised though, because ever since Skypiea, everybody of worth has been able to do compressed air blast or like flying blade attacks. So that's to be expected, but it's nice how perceptive Zoro is. And I kind of wonder if Scaban's axes are Meito grade weapons, because there are bladed weapons, kind of like a Whitebeard's by Sito. That's a Meito grade weapon. So I wonder, because there's nothing really interesting or ornate about them. They're just axes. So that's interesting. Out of the old guys so far from Roger's crew, Gaban is becoming my favorite. I like him more than Rayleigh. That attack takes out a tower of Orsk Castle, which is crazy. And that's when Scopper Gaban thinks of a compliment, saying that Luffy has a fine crew. This, of course, causes Luffy to go gear 5th. And when he does so, he's holding the axe, which is weird. And I don't know if this matters, because this could be the coloring of the axe, but the axe turns white and his hair grows around his Viking helmet, so it looks like he has horns. And then this is the first outfit that he's worn, actually, because this did not happen in Egghead, but his entire outfit becomes white. So his entire Elbathian outfit is affected by his Devil Fruit. This is the first outfit that is actually affected by his Devil Fruit, because otherwise he just goes back to his basic outfit. So that's interesting. I wonder if that's just a matter of choice as opposed to a rule. I think it's a matter of choice. And Scopper Gaban thinks about it like, this is the white form I heard about. So both Luffy and Zoro are battle ready. The tower falls to the ground, but that's when Skapra-Gabad, I guess, perceives the attack and then gives up, which pisses everybody off. Because we see Zoro's blades were hockeyed up. He was so ready. That's great. That's great. And he simply hands the key over and bids them farewell and says, if Elbaf is still safe, by the time you decide to leave, come find me. And they're like, oh, no way. You're a terrible old man. We hate you. Which leads us to a flashback of his in which he's talking to Shakes. And he says, well, honestly, Shakes, do you think I would trust him so easily? Like, being associated with you is not a one-way pass to get smitten with me. Which I kind of like that he texted them. That's kind of cool. And I'm going with the translation of his name here because it makes more sense to spell it with a Y, because his nickname is Yasan. So it wouldn't just be Gabon and be Gabon. Why? That makes sense. Because it's literally a Ya in his name. I don't know. But anyway. The kids and the teachers of the Wolver School see a strange bird flying overhead. Of course, that is Gunko flying into a secluded area in which she actually is able to summon the magic circle, which I guess gives more context of what we saw in Egghead. Also, the patty shot in her is crazy. Jesus, Oda. Anyway, but yeah, the part in which Saturn summons the other 5 elders, I guess this clarifies that people could just do it. And then we actually get a little bit more about this later on, and we're coming to that very soon. So to continue, she summons the magic circle, lightning comes down from the sky, and we're given even more context because 2 people are summoned. We have a member of the Holy Knights from House Shepherd, Saint Summers. So this most likely is a relative of 5 Elders member Shepherd Jupiter. And he kind of looks like Jupiter, except his beard is more trimmed, it's not as long. And he was apparently summoned in his underwear as he was lounging on his couch. And then we get a weird one. We have Holy Knight, House of Lemosiv, Saint Quillingam. Now, this guy is the first awakened Zoan with a white Hagoromo, or a lightly colored Hagoromo, I should say. I don't know what color it is, but yeah, it's a lightly colored Hagoromo. Also, I looked it up. A Quallen or a Kirin kind of looks like a unicorn in some depictions, because it's this horse-like thing with one horn. Recently made a video about the possibility of Figlin Garland having a weapon with the mythical or regular version of the horse fruit model unicorn. That still could be a possibility because this is a Quillen. So it's an adjacent to a unicorn, but it's not quite a unicorn. So I don't know. Kind of close. We'll have to see what Figlin Garland actually has, but this is very interesting. And he's carrying this weird weapon. Kind of looks like a trident of some sort. It probably has a name, but I cannot call it. It looks very familiar. And he's wearing a celestial dragon bubble, it looks like, which is the first Holy Knight to be wearing one of these. So that's interesting in itself. And it seems as though it's got a bit of a gas mask attached to it. So I don't know what that's about. Yeah, it's really weird that he's in a hybrid state and he has a Hagoromo. So wow, huh? Yeah, of course, yeah, and he's got to be a Quillen because Quillen is literally in his name, Quillingam. But yeah, so yeah, we have another awakened mythical Zoan. Or you know what? I don't know. He could be awakened. He may not be, because yeah, it's weird. Looking at Yamato, I'm not sure anymore. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and saying, based on how full his Hagoromo is, most likely he is awakened. But yeah, he was summoned along with Summers. They are surprised that they are here. And apparently, yeah, the Abyss, as they call it, can summon Holy Knights from any place at any time, even when they're in their heart-shaped underwear lounging on the couch. And it's very funny throughout this entire conversation. We just see Summers getting dressed. And yeah, Qualingam is huge, which makes sense because, of course, awakened Zoan. But yeah, that's weird. They're just surprised that they were summoned. And I'm glad that, well, Summers would summon along with a truck of clothing. But apparently, the idea was to only summon one and they got two because Shamrock has to go back to base given the whole food situation in the Holy Land, which was caused during the Leveille by the Revolutionary Army, in which we see Lafitte observing, in which the Bogondolas, I think they were called, they were constantly being sabotaged, so no food can actually get up there. So yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, the mission that is being discussed is that they are going to kidnap the children of Elbaf. However, when we find out, and this is interesting, only people with a particular mark can actually use this whole abyss teleportation thing. So they have to be spirited away by boat. That's interesting. So I'm guessing, based on looking at Summers here, because he has a bunch of tattoos on his arm, but there is one at his elbow that looks like the magic circle. So I'm guessing all of the Holy Knights and the Gorosei have this tattoo somewhere on their person. That's what I'm gathering. So I guess, if I had to guess, because I talked about this way back in which I talk about what fruit Eam could have. So I'm guessing as a sign of devotion, Eam puts this tattoo on a person, and when they do so, they are then able to use their power in order to summon a magic circle and then summon anybody else with the same tattoo via the magic circle. That's what I'm gathering from this. Which, it'll be crazy if that was like a venom bite, because I often thought that Emu was some sort of mythical snake, perhaps the mythical sea beast looking thing that we see in the mirror. But yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting because this confirms a lot. This confirms a lot. And with that, that's basically the end of the chapter, with Shamrock and Gunko exclaiming that with their combined powers, they can make a game out of capturing the children. I guess they would just commandeer a giant boat then, thinking about it. Because, you know, gathering giant children up is no easy feat. But yeah, that is the end of chapter 1140. No break next week, and good chapter. I'm very elated that this was very enlightening for a lot of lore reasons, a lot of things to put together, and we do have our first mythical Zoan that is not Luffy to have an awakened state that contains a lightly colored Hagoromo, so that's interesting. I wonder if this is based off of the temperament of the user, which I made a video about too, or is this just a thing that's associated with the fruit. So now we've seen both mythical and normal Zoans have a black Hagoromo. So yeah, I don't know if this is based off a temperament, because the funny thing about it is that, say, Qualingam enters the scene very goofily, so that could like denote that he's a more lighthearted character than his other associates. I could see that, but we'll have to find out more in the future. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Watson.